We are live. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're continuing our interviews from home during this pandemic. I am Clint Calder with UNPA, starting with I kind of manage the marketing. I'm probably a new face for many of you, but I've been around for a couple months and excited to be here supporting Lauren and the great UNPA team. Today, we are going to be highlighting some big news from our members. We have Dr. Paul Mittman, who is the president and CEO of Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicines. And I'm going to turn the time over to Paul, who's going to lead a great discussion today.
Great. Hey, well, thank you, Clint, and welcome to everyone. We're really excited. I'm excited to be here with Bill Chioffi, who is our Vice President for Strategic Partnerships and Business Development at the Ric Scalzo Institute for Botanical Research. And so just by way of introduction, and there's a really cool UNPA tie-in here. About 12 years ago, a faculty member joined our, professor joined our faculty who happened to be a virologist. And for the first 22 years of his career, he worked on drug development, vaccine development against viruses. And after joining the SCNM faculty, our students, probably hounded him mercilessly about why don't you start studying herbs and botanical medicines instead of studying drugs. And so really for the last 12 years, at the leadership of Dr. Jeffrey Langland, we've been looking at the molecular biology of how plants interact on a cellular level at SCNM in collaboration with Arizona State University. And about 5 years ago, I was at a UNPA member meeting, and Lauren says, in 3 weeks is the International Conference on the Science of Botanicals at University of Mississippi. If you're into plants and working on botanical medicine, you've got to go there. And I was like, at University of where? Mississippi? And so, 3 weeks later, I went there and was introduced to an entire whole new group of people. And over time, we gradually expanded the work that we're doing at the college. And last year, Ric Scalzo, the founder and longtime CEO of Gaia Herbs, made a transformational gift to Southwest College that founded the Ric Scalzo, what's now known as the Ric Scalzo Institute for Botanical Research, where we not only do we have a bioassay lab to look at the molecular biology, we also have an analytical lab and metabolomics lab where we can understand what's happening on a cellular level, but then we also have an opportunity to really understand what's in the plants and what makes one plant more effective than another, depending on the extraction or maybe on the cultivar of that particular plant. And so it's really exciting. We're in the process of building the Institute on our campus right now. And I have with me Bill Chioffi, who has been in the field of botanical medicine for almost 3 decades, 22 years of which he had he wore many hats at Gaia Herbs. And Bill, you being part of the Institute now, you bring a wealth of information about the field and also about the industry. And what do you see as the value proposition for people, for companies who would want to really explore how botanicals work on this level?
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Mittman, for the introduction, and to all the members of UNPA, welcome and thank you for listening. I think the value proposition is really in the ability for any entity that wants to know their botanical or their botanical medicine on a completely different and much deeper level than we're used to understanding our botanical medicines as manufacturers. I think that's one value proposition. So the educational opportunity to understand your medicine on many different levels, like you're saying, from the cellular biology of how your actual, let's say it's an extract or even a whole botanical or a formulation works. But then also the ability to do that characterization in-house of the plant with analytical chemistry and tie that into your development of the product perhaps, or you know, a new type of delivery based on findings of how that plant might work. But I think also the opportunity as well to study some of the synergistic actions of botanicals that have not been well understood, and why certain things work better in combination than others. And again, we're going to go all the way back to the earliest recorded information on these plants to begin with these types of hypotheses. So these things have much information available to us. So, you know, it's not like we're starting from scratch. So I think those are a couple of really good value propositions.
It's a really exciting opportunity to if you understand the mechanism of action of how a plant is interacting with a person or a health condition on a cellular level, we can look at formulas, and rather than having maybe 3 or 4 herbs, they may have the same exact mechanism of action, which is just redundant. And so to really be able to create a synergy where you are, you know, building on the characteristics of one and adding or complementing it with the second one. And so, for example, we're looking right now, and so this is kind of just breaking news here. We can't give away too much information, but we're actually doing some research. We just screened 40 herbs against the SARS-CoV-2 virus at a biosafety level 3 laboratory at Arizona State University. And in addition to just seeing which herbs are antiviral, the next phase is to see how are they working at what level. So one may be blocking viral attachment, another could be blocking transcription. So really looking at the life cycle of the virus and then interfering at different levels, and then maybe the opportunity to put something together that would be not, again, redundant or not just interfering with one phase of the life cycle, but maybe to hit 3 or 4 phases of the life cycle. Is there anything that you could share about the research without, like, we don't want to say anything about specific herbs because it's probably another 2 or 3 months before we'll have the mechanism of action nailed down. But out of the 40, how did our herbs do, and where did they come from?
So yeah, so without getting too specific, there are many herbs whose use is well known in the traditional Chinese medicine system. So these are herbs from TCM that have been used in either patent formulas for these types of indications. So right now where we're at with the research, as you indicated, is just really in the early screening process. So we're looking at the cytotoxicity of the individual, and these are extracts of the individual botanicals that we're extracting at different percentages of ethanol and exposing to the virus just to check pure virucidal activity. So how many viral cells did it inhibit replication of or kill? And what was the toxicity level of the plant? So we're looking for, you know, plants that you could take a fair amount of without them having any toxicity to living cells. And then something that has a fairly low amount that you would take to get the virucidal activity. So of those 40, I think we landed on something like 5 to 8 plants that are very promising in that regard. And I think most importantly, the first aspect is that safety element. So they have to be non-toxic first in order to pass that screening test. So does that answer the question for you for what I can say and can't say?
For me, because some of these plants were used in the first SARS or the previous SARS outbreak in 2002 or 3. So there's some literature on some of these plants for coronaviruses. Some of it came from some scientists in China who actually sent a document in Chinese, we had to translate, that was sharing some of the traditional Chinese medicine plants. We also have some plants from the Middle East and other antiviral botanicals that we've been working on that have antiviral properties. But how cool would it be, if we come up with something where the FDA says we should do a fast track clinical trial on this particular plant, or there are probably going to be millions of people around the world who will never have access to an FDA-approved drug. And so the potential to put together evidence-based botanical treatments for a global pandemic is really exciting. And it's like, on one hand, it could seem far-fetched. On the other hand, when you think about the let's say the treatment of malaria, the 2015 Nobel Prize for Medicine was awarded to a Chinese scientist she was the woman who discovered the most current treatment for malaria, which is artemisinin, which is from wormwood, Artemisia annua. And so it would be like part of the mission of the Institute is for us to not just advance botanical medicine to help people, but also to elevate botanical medicine, our respect for plants and the environment, and for us to build a better healthcare system through the use of plants, which historically, things like aspirin, digitalis, there are so many important drugs that come from plants. And I think that given the molecular biology laboratory and scientists, the analytical chemistry lab and scientists that we have for that, and also I think what we also bring is having herbalists and naturopathic physicians who are actually clinicians using these plants together. We could really do something really special.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm working on a team with 2 naturopaths. We were just having a discussion that to have 3 herbalists involved in an area of research that normally doesn't involve that is just, it's part of the multidisciplinary approach that we're using to really fully understand how these plants work. So it's a wonderful opportunity, and I just think even in our early stages here, if I can say, the lab is still under construction. Everything is going well, and we're on track with our plans. And being able to use that BSL-3 lab at Arizona State with Dr. Langland's affiliation with the Biodesign Institute really does give us the ability to do some of these screenings and keep working now until the lab is finished. So.
Yeah, we're also, it's work that I haven't really seen a lot of research in this direction. So we were talking about viral assays, so just looking at antiviral, but just before the pandemic, he was wrapping up some preliminary research on cannabis sativa and looking at gene expression with various cultivars and extractions of cannabis sativa, so industrial hemp. It was looking at anti-inflammatory models, looking at cytokines like interleukin-8, and seeing, which extractions, which, on the range of hydroethanolic extractions work better at promoting anti-inflammatory properties of cells. Also looking at serotonin, so things for sleep, anxiety, also for pain and inflammation in these, really exciting and innovative models that, fortunately we took someone who, am I allowed to say this, came from the dark side and took, the methodology that's used to screen for drug development, and also, some of these laboratory or in vitro models, and is now applying it to the field of botanical medicine, is just, it's just such a gift. And having you here, could you say a little bit about yourself, Bill? Because I think, it's an academic institute, and at the same time, we wanted it to be something that advances botanical medicine, but, we're part of the natural products industry, and, your experience, working at Gaia Herbs, where you were for 22 years, you really had a range of, experience there at Gaia, but also with growers and other companies all around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I would start by saying that, and you and I talked about this, Dr. Mittman, that my career could have gone very much otherwise. I had almost had my application completed for Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine. I was working for Alfalfa's Market in Fort Collins, Colorado, when it was still under Alfalfa's Market. And this was in 1996 or so. And so my application would have gone in, but the owner of Gaia, Ric Scalzo, was doing a tour through the Colorado region, talking about this idea he had to move his company from Massachusetts to North Carolina to vertically integrate his supply chain and bring manufacturing in-house, and also build out his analytical lab. He had hired a natural products chemist, Dr. Shiping Wang, who worked for Gaia for years. And so that, that was really, so I had the choice to either go to naturopathic school or go there. And I decided to take a job in the industry because I really wanted to understand. I saw great results from herbal products early on, and through my retail experience and feedback from customers. And I really wanted to understand exactly why. And once I started to understand a little bit of the biochemistry and physiology, I wanted to go a step further, and I really landed on medicine making. So through my career at Gaia, starting in production and then ending up as the vice president of global sourcing and sustainability, I work primarily with our own farm on raw materials because Gaia's supply chain is vertically integrated as much as possible, and they do a great job with that. But then visiting farms in different areas of the world, and one of the first challenges I met was with the maca supply in around 2014. And so that was an introduction to a time in the marketplace where, adulteration was an issue. The supply chain was interrupted, and that was a part of the product mix at Gaia that was very important. So I spent a fair deal of time in my first few months just in Peru, different parts of the Andes, meeting with farmers and trying to understand exactly what was going on with the supply chain. So again, yeah, I think what I can bring and what I bring to the Institute and our team is kind of the ability to also coalesce a lot of different types of disciplines within the Institute. We have a molecular biologist. We have Dr. Yalda Shokahinia is a pharmacognosist and a pharmacist. So, we have different perspectives, and I've kind of worked, with those different analytical labs over time, qualifying raw materials through Gaia's really well-developed supply chain process. So at any rate, yeah, a lot of different places to touch when you follow a plant. And in terms of sustainability, I think the same thing applies. If you follow a plant all the way from its seed to its end product in the supply chain, that's probably the best thing you could do as a manufacturer to really understand all of the sustainability aspects. And that includes the efficacy of the plant as well.
And I would say, since I was on the team that hired you, the other two things are that, number one, I think everyone who knows Bill, both respects him and knows that he's good to his word. And your reputation throughout the industry is someone with tremendous integrity. And so for companies who want to do work to really know their plants, to know their herbs, they know that when you reach out to them, there's a very high level of trust that's well deserved. And then the second thing is that you can put yourself in their shoes because you've been on the other side, and you know what makes sense. You know how investing in this kind of research really adds value to their company, to their products, and helps them distinguish themselves from other companies that don't do this work. And I think it's just really, it's a really exciting opportunity. And I don't know how many academic institutions go out and intentionally find someone from industry, to lead an institute like this. But I think that sort of the marriage between the scientists and someone with your background, and just your character is something that, it's so exciting. So we've been talking about this lab that's under construction, and until then we're doing work at Dr. Langland's lab at ASU. We also have some other laboratories at SCNM for other things that are less intensive. So what's the timeline? When are we going to be open?
Right now, according to plan, hopefully mid-December.
Okay, good. Yeah, well, I was actually just over there yesterday, and I saw them welding, which is a good sign, because having first had to demo, a few thousand square feet of space, and so that was interesting. But actually building things, and and I think it'll get real when all the expensive equipment starts to show up.
Yeah, absolutely. And, in thinking about this, I think I'm just so grateful that this is all happening. And in the natural products industry, we have a tremendous opportunity. And just listening to the type of growth rates that I'm hearing, and the need to be able to keep up with the pace of that is something I'm familiar with. So, that type of ability to continuously develop new products in ways that extend to consumers, I think is going to be very necessary. And as you said, we've got all the pieces in place to start to do that. So looking forward to, just getting more data as well from Dr. Langland. So to be able to study plants and see these things happening after reading just in vitro studies, and now to be able to be a part of them and understand what the challenges are with this type of science and how to integrate that into natural product development, I think is very exciting for me. I'm a learner, so it's a great role.
Yeah, and we have some projects that are already, contracts ready to be signed as soon as we get our facility open. And actually, some of it we're starting beforehand because there's some literature review. Can you just, before we wrap up, could you just touch base on the work that the Institute is doing with the American Herbal Pharmacopoeia on the industrial hemp monograph?
Yeah, so we are, our staff is hard at work with Roy Upton and the folks at the American Herbal Pharmacopoeia to write the, I'm afraid I'll get the exact name wrong, but the compendial monograph for cannabis sativa. So they're poring over historical data, reviewing research, and Dr. Chukahenia, as an analytical chemist, is going through all of the different analytical chemistry research that has been done on cannabis sativa, and it's something that's really sorely needed in the US. We don't have an official compendial monograph of that type for cannabis sativa. So that's the type of work that can be done through the resources of the type of research these scientists already have in their background without having an analytical lab. So I think it's really worthy to do. And I hesitate to say on the timing of it because I will let the American Herbal Pharmacopoeia speak to that. So.
Right. Well, we get emails from Roy every few days on where they're at, but it's really exciting because I think there's probably 20 or 30 different authors, and then there'll be a whole bunch more reviewers. But you know, we have people from I know they're doing work at the University of Mississippi. They're doing work in Italy, and so it's really a global effort that just happens to come together at the Institute. And so it's really exciting to be kind of at the heart of such an important project.
Absolutely.
So I am just thrilled to hang out with you, Bill. But also, you know, I want to just say how nice it is. This is my first time meeting Clint, but we also have Kira Olson on the call. And anytime to see our friends at UNPA, hang out with Lauren, talked to him a couple of weeks ago, is really a treat because this is the group that are the very best in the industry. And when it comes to natural products, UNPA is the voice that everyone listens to. And for us to be a part of that is really a treat. And so thanks for having us, you guys.
Thank you, Paul. That's very sweet of you to say. We really appreciate it.
That's true.
Yes, and thank you very much. This concludes our interview for today. Paul, if people have questions, is there anywhere where people should be going to get more information? I know I can share links and stuff on the social, but.
Sure, if they go to scnm.edu, and then we're actually just redoing the website, but I know that the Institute has its own section at the website. So if they go to our website, or they can reach out directly to Bill, which would be, Bill, you want to give me your email?
Sure thing. b.chioffi@scnm.edu. That's CHIOFFI@scnm.edu.
Great.
Perfect.
Thank you
very much.
so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bill and Paul. Really appreciate you taking the time to share the news about the Institute and the excitement. I loved your statements on how it's going to really help support the industry, the natural products industry, and keeping them up with consumers, because consumers, you know, they're ready and they're rampant. So thank you so much.
Yeah, our pleasure.